Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld, and today we're going to take a look at the World War II weapons in Battlefield Hardline. The M1A1 Thompson was added a few months back in Criminal Activity, and now the M1 Carbine has been added in with the Robbery DLC. When Criminal Activity came out, most people originally thought the M1A1 was being added because it was a popular weapon with gangsters like John Dillinger. The M1 Carbine doesn't really have any strong links to criminal organisations though, so it seems like the devs are actually going for some sort of World War II theme. Another possible explanation that I've heard a few times for why these guns are being added to the game is because they're cheap and easy to come by in the US. The problem with this theory though is that it's just not true, and even though these guns are pretty old, it's still cheaper to buy yourself an AR-15. The question is, why would any police force or criminal organisation choose to use one of these guns in the present day anyway? And the answer is, well, they wouldn't, because they've been obsolete for more than 50 years, and as you'll see from the stats, they're pretty much obsolete in-game as well. Now, the M1 Carbine is basically an early gas-operated semi-auto rifle based on the design of the M1 Garand. Unlike the Garand though, it fires the US Light 30 cartridge, which doesn't pack anywhere near the punch of a full-size 30 caliber cartridge. To be honest, I thought the devs would just ignore this, but sadly they haven't, and this means that the damage model of the M1 is seriously underpowered. It only deals 34 damage out to 30 meters, which drops off to 15 at 60 meters, meaning that even a battle rifle in semi-auto is going to be much more effective at all ranges. Admittedly, it does have a very fast reload time and hardly any recoil, but when you compare it to the DMRs or the battle rifles, it's not even a contest. Even the AKM assault rifle deals more damage at all ranges, and it's not limited to firing in semi-auto, which is what gets you killed in close range. The problem with the M1 though is that, bearing in mind the damage model, the only range it is really effective at is at close range. Even then, you're still looking at least a 3-shot kill at point blank range, which is just way too slow when you're going up against PDWs and shotguns. Now, as for the Thompson, well, it's definitely an iconic weapon that, like I said, was used by gangsters as well as the police that had to fight them. It was used throughout World War II as well as the Korean War and even Vietnam, but it was officially retired in 1971 in favour of the M16. The M1A1 fires the 45 ACP pistol round, which does pack a punch in close range, but it loses its energy pretty quickly at mid to long range. And this is why the weapon was retired from service and why it doesn't really work in-game, because compared to assault rifles, it doesn't really stand a chance. In-game, the Thompson more or less suffers from the same issues as the M1, in that it's only really effective in close range, and even then, it still sucks. It fires at 725 RPM and deals 25 damage out to 15 meters, dropping off to 15 at 35 meters, making it pretty much the worst PDW in the game. I mean, if you take a look at some of the other PDWs, most of them are dealing more than 25 damage and they're firing well above 800 RPM. The Thompson does have a slightly better minimum damage than the faster firing PDWs, but this still isn't really an advantage when you're up against ARs and battle rifles. Now, the worst thing about these World War II guns is that they can't use optics, and they don't really have any good attachments. The Thompson does get a decent 50-round drum magazine, but this won't help you win head-to-head gunfights that are decided in the first few rounds. The hardest thing to deal with on these guns though are the iron sights, which make it nearly impossible to see the target when you go into ADS. As bad as it seems, most of the time it's just more effective to hip fire, because at least then you'll be able to see your target and you might even land the first hit. No matter what you do with these guns though, or how you change your playstyle, it's not going to make up for the fact that they just don't deal enough damage. Hardline is a game where you get killed in a split second, and when you're the only player in a server with a low DPS weapon, you're gonna get wrecked. The fact that nearly every server in Hardline is crammed with 64 players doesn't help either, and eventually your luck is gonna run out. On the other hand though, on larger maps, you're just gonna get wrecked by long range weapons, so there really isn't any competitive reason to use these guns at all. So all in all, what more is there to say about the M1 and the M1A1, apart from the fact that they look cool and they sound cool, but they just don't work? I really can't understand why the devs added them into the game in the first place, because this is just another feature in Hardline that players won't use. You'd think with all the balancing issues the game had at launch, the devs would have realised by now that content that no one uses isn't actually good content. And most importantly, like the Syndicate assignments, content that frustrates players is even worse, and to say that these guns are frustrating would be an understatement. To end on an optimistic note though, I guess maybe the devs could balance these guns to make them usable, but the fact that they're all kit weapons makes me think that they won't. Giving a decent automatic weapon to the professional kit, or a DMR style weapon to everyone else, would probably unbalance the class system. I get that that's probably why the devs chose to make these guns bad in the first place, but if you're gonna make a gun bad, why add it to the game at all? I think for this reason the M1 and the Thompson both need to be buffed to at least make them viable, because it's such a shame to let such awesome weapons go to waste. But anyway guys, that just about wraps up this video, so let me know what you think of the World War II weapons in Battlefield Hardline, and as always, if you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Also check out the links in the description below if you want to see more of my videos, or if you want to support my channel on Patreon, and until next time, see you later and have a good one.